Welcome to Tap the Good Spiritual Counseling and Transformational Coaching Services. I'm your host, Dr. Jacinta Mpali Nkana Mori. In this session today, we are going to continue with reading Dr. Joseph Murphy's book, Believe in Yourself, and we're on page 13. I hope you enjoyed the first portion of the book. Without further ado, let's get started. Page 13. In ancient symbology, the sun and the moon represent the conscious and subconscious mind. The 11 stars represent the 11 powers in addition to imagination. Here again, the inspired writers were telling you that disciplined imagination takes precedence over all other faculties of the mind and controls the direction of the conscious and subconscious mind. Imagination is first and foremost. It can be scientifically directed. I was examining one of the round towers of Ireland with my father over 50 years ago. He said nothing for 1 hour, but remained passive and receptive, seeming to be in a pensive mode. I asked him what he was meditating on. This is the essence of his answer. He pointed out that it's only by dwelling on the great, wonderful ideas of the world that will grow and expand. He contemplated the age of the stones in the tower. Then his imagination took him back to the quarries where stones were first formed. His imagination unclosed the stones. He saw with the interior eye the structure, the geological formation, and the composition of the stone, and reduced it to the formless state. Finally, he imagined the oneness of the stones with all stones and with all life. He realized in his divine imagery that it was possible to reconstruct the history of the Irish race from looking at the round tower. Through the imaginative faculty, this teacher was able to see the invisible men living in the tower and to hear their voices. The whole place became alive to him in his imagination. Through his power, he was able to go back in time when there was no round table there. In his mind, he began to weave a drama of the place from which stones originated, who brought them, the purpose of the structure, and the history connected with it. As he said to me, I am able to almost feel the touch and hear the sound of steps that vanished thousands of years ago. The subjective mind permeates all things. It is in all things and is the substance from which they are made. The treasure house of eternity is the very stones comprising a building. There is nothing inanimate. All life in its varied manifestations. All is life in its varied manifestations. The sun and the moon make obedience to Joseph, imagination. Truly, through your faculty of imagination, you can imagine that the invisible secrets of nature are revealed to you. You will find that you can plumb the very depth of consciousness. The other night I sat in a park and looked at the setting sun. Suddenly, I began to think that the sun is like a house in the city of Los Angeles. There is a great sun behind our sun, and so on to infinity. It staggers the imagination to ponder and meditate on the myriads of suns and solar galaxies extending into infinity beyond the Milky Way. This world is only a grain of sand in the infinite seashore. Instead of seeing the parts, let us look at the wholeness, the unity of all things. We are, as the poet said, all parts of one whole, whose body nature is, and God the soul. It's really out of the imaginative mind of man that all religions are born. Is it not out of the realms of imagination that television, radio, radar, superjets, and all other modern inventions come? Your imagination is the treasure house of infinity, which releases to you all the precious jewels of music, art, poetry, and inventions. You can look at some ancient ruin, an old temple or pyramid, and reconstruct the records of the dead past. In the ruins of an old churchyard, you can also see a modern city resurrected in all its beauty and glory. You may even be in a prison of want or lack, or behind stone bars, but in your imagination you can find an undreamed of measure of freedom. Remember how Chico, the Parisian sewer cleaner, imagined and lived in a parasitical city of mind called the seventh heaven, even though he never saw the light of day. Bunyan in prison wrote the great masterpiece called Pilgrim's Progress. Milton, although blind, saw with the interior eye. His imagination made his brain a ball of fire, and he wrote Paradise Lost. In this way, he brought some of God's paradise to all people everywhere. Imagination was Milton's spiritual eye, which enabled him to go about God's business, whereby he annihilated time, space, and matter, and brought forth the truth of the invisible presence and power. A genius is a man who is in rapport with his subconscious mind. He is able to tap his universal reservoir and receive answers to his problems. Thus, he does not have to work by the sweat of his brow. In the genius type of mind, the imaginative faculties develop to a very high degree. All great poets and writers are gifted with a highly developed and cultivated imaginative faculty. I can see Shakespeare listening to the old stories, fables, and myths of his day. I can also imagine him sitting down listing all these characters in the play in his mind, then closing them one by one with hair, skin, muscle, and bone, animating them and making them so much alive that we think we are reading about ourselves. Use your imagination and go about your Father's business. Your Father's business is to let your wisdom, skill, knowledge, and ability come forth and bless others as well as yourself. You are about your Father's business. If you are operating a small store and in your imagination you feel you're operating a larger store, giving a greater measure of service to your fellow creatures. If you are a writer of short stories, you can be about your Father's business. Create a story in your mind that teaches someone about the golden rule. Then pass that story and all its characters through your specialized and highly artistic mentality. Your article will be fascinating and intensely interesting to your public. The truth about man is always wonderful and beautiful. When writing a novel or story, we should be sure that we clothe truth in her garment of loveliness and beauty. You could now look at an icon and with your imaginative eye, construct a magnificent forest full of rivers, rivulets, and streams. You could people the forest with all kinds of life. Furthermore, you could hang a bow on every cloud. You could look at a desert and cause it to rejoice and blossom as a rose. Instead of the thorn shall come up to the tree, and instead of the briar shall come up to the myrtle tree. Man, gifted with intuition and imagination, find water in the desert, and they create cities where formerly other men only saw a desert or wilderness. An architect of a city sees the buildings and fountains already in operation before he ever digs a well or builds a house. I will make the wilderness a pool of water and the dry land springs of water. Long hours, hard labor, or burning the midnight oil will not produce a Milton, a Shakespeare, or a Beethoven. People accomplish great things through quiet moments, imagining that the invisible things from the foundation of time are actually visible. You can imagine the indescribable beauty of he who is being expressed on your canvas. And if you're a real artist in love with beauty, a great beauty will come forth effortlessly. Moments of great inspiration will come to you. It will have nothing to do with the perspiration of hard mental labor. In Greenwich Village, I met a poet who wrote beautiful poems. He had them printed on cards and sold them at Christmas time. Some of these poems were beautiful gems of spiritual love. He said that when he got still, the words will come into his mind, accompanied by a lovely scene. Flowers, people, and friends will come clearly into his mind. These images spoke to him. They told him their story. Oftentimes, the entire poem, song, or lullaby would appear complete and ready in his mind without the slightest effort. His habit was imagine that he was writing beautiful poems that would stir the hearts of men. Alright guys, so I'll stop here today so that you can start thinking about what you want and start imagining it. Don't hold back. Imagination is exclusive of time. You can go back. If you can go back and imagine the past, a negative past, we are so good at that, and you actually feel it and you get angry because somebody did something to you 50 years ago or 20 years ago. Then you can definitely imagine a future and infuse it with mental emotional states that you know will be extracted or accrued or triggered within you when you achieve your heart's desire. Use your imagination to imagine a brilliant future, a healthy life, a perfect body. Friends, use your imagination wisely, because imagination is key and power to creativity and creation itself. Until next time, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. And until then, I'm sending you abundant love from my heart to yours. Peace and blessings.